Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
Fitz, welcome to Breaking Barriers. We're so honored to have you, looking at, my podcast team, took a look at, who you are, what you do. And we're super inspired by just your positivity, your energy. You're wanting to make impact in health in the world. And for people who are like, who is Fitz Koehler? Can you please kind of give us a little bit of your story in a high level?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm noisy, I'm bossy, and I help people live better and longer by making fitness understandable, attainable, and fun. And I do that in a few ways.
I love that.
Everything I do is on a mass scale. So I don't work in gyms or fitness centers.
Yeah.
I do a ton of media. So TV, radio, books, magazines. It's very satisfying to me when I'm on national news in the morning, and by 8 a.m. I've already helped a few million people, provide them with tools they could use to do better and be better immediately. So I love, I do a lot of corporate keynote speaking. And again, I'm just blah, blah, blahing, trying to yank the best out of people.
Yeah.
I'm a professional race announcer. So I host some of the largest, most iconic running events in the United States, LA Marathon, Buffalo Marathon, Detroit Free Press, and dozens of others. And then last but not least, I'm an author. I have the Cancer Comeback series that's comprised of 3 books to help cancer patients go from sick to strong. And, that's one of my big focuses right now. I'm really proud of them.
That's so powerful. You do so much, and my hat's off to you for that. It's like, it seems like you don't sit still, which is a great thing. I'm the same exact way. So, for people out there that are watching and listening in, what is it that drove you to start this, right? Like, what made you say, I want to be in this world where I'm impacting, seeing millions of people, or millions of people are seeing you, getting your energy, pulling out the best in them. Like, give us that journey for Fitz. Like, how did you get on this train?
So I started teaching fitness when I was 15. I went through physical therapy for a knee injury. That PT said, go to the gym or you're going to re-injure your knee playing soccer.
Right.
And I am, before my first job at teaching fitness, I was working at Cinnabon. Thankfully, that manager was super mean. So I switched career paths and gotta go. And started teaching fitness, fell in love with it. I mean, I love the human body. I love health. I love the connection with people. That really means so much to me. I mean, no matter who I was teaching a class to, people would show up and I'd fall in love instantly. And I was intrinsically motivated to help them achieve. And so did that for many years. And I went to University of Florida, taught there. I did some interesting things in college, taught on a cruise ship overseas.
Oh, wow.
Which was cool. Russia, Estonia, places, I never thought I'd go, but fitness took me there. And then when I returned to UF after the cruise ship job over the summer, there was a TV producer casting for a fitness show called Cardio Jam. And it was a new show, and I auditioned, and he chose me, and thank God he did. I mean, I got 2 big aha moments out of that. Number one is that my skills were transferable towards a camera. It's not that same way for everybody. Some people can teach in a classroom, and it just doesn't work in the other way. It worked for me. But then the other real big, powerful moment that just spun my life around and set me clear on a path was that once the show started airing, strangers started approaching and saying, "Are you Fitz?" Yes. "Oh my God, I do your show all the time. And I lost 17 pounds," or "my back doesn't hurt," or blah, blah, blah. And I just was so impacted by their success. And I, even at maybe 20 years old, I realized how powerful that was to be able to connect with strangers. We weren't in the same social circle, maybe not income bracket, whatever it was, but I got to help them. And it became, my addiction. It's beyond obsession. You throw all those words out there, and I need to reach people and help them do better and be better. And I totally believe that if you take care of yourself, everything else in your world gets better. Your profession, you become more successful. Your relationships improve. Living long isn't so fun if you're stuck in bed feeling bad. So let's get into our 90s and maybe 100 and feel great. We can do this. So yeah, I'm obsessed. I love what I do. And, I'm sure we'll touch on it, but I love what I do so much that I even did it while definitely ill with cancer, while
Mm.
violently ill and bald and gray. And I boarded over 30 planes leaving out of Gainesville, Florida during 15 months of chemo. So yeah, I
Wow.
love what I do.
You are an absolute savage.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
That is insane, and in the best way possible. And so I have, okay, so there's so much questions that I have right now, but we also have a lot of listeners who ask questions who I'll get to eventually.
Okay.
But let's start there, right? So I think one of the hardest things in the world to do, right? It's like we're at this moment right now. This is like the perfect time for this podcast because we're in January, the time where everyone's like, I want to lose that weight, or I want to gain muscle, or I want to do whatever I want to do with my health, right? And it's this thing that happens where from January 1 to January 30, like, you start off this motivated person, and then by the end of the 30th, you're done, right? So what advice do you have right now for people who are just like, again, we're 2 weeks in almost, and people are already starting to crash on their goals already? What would the Fitz advice be for people listening in that are kind of getting a squeaky wheel here along with their health goals?
So first of all, nobody's ever successful unless they mean it.
Yeah.
So don't choose goals that other people have set for you or you think you should do. Think of goals that you really want to achieve. Right. I also find nobody achieves their goals unless they put their foot down, unless they say, I can no longer live in this body as is. Whether they saw a photo of themselves and they go, oh gosh, or their back hurts. And they know, pain's a great motivator. So whatever your motivation is to get fit, make it yours. Set the big goal, set minor goals along the way so you're constantly having success. And then most importantly, don't fall for fad diets. Don't do keto. Don't do the cabbage soup diet. Anything called a diet is meant to be a short-term action that leads to short-term results. I mean,
right.
There is no diet that lasts forever. Diets are often short-term. There's a lot of suffering involved, misery, and failure. And don't buy anything with the word diet on it. There are no pills, weight loss pills, powders, supplements, or shakes that work. If it says work diet and you're trying to buy something to ingest to help you lose weight, stop. You're just giving your money away. Instead, you got to learn how to eat the right amount of the right food for the size you want to be. So knowledge goes a long way. If you go on the cover of Fitzness.com, there's an article called The Exact Formula for Weight Loss. I am selling you nothing. I just teach you what your personal caloric budget is. You decide, and it works every single time. And you can eat the variety of foods you want. I encourage you to eat more healthy food than not, but perfect's boring. So you can still have a Cheeto or a beer or a glass of wine within your caloric budget and achieve your goals. When it comes to fitness, it's 4 pillars of fitness. You got to focus on cardio, strength, flexibility, balance. All 4 pillars matter. If not, the roof falls down. So you can do hard things. I'm not a superhuman. All these fit people walking around, we're not superhuman. There's nothing special about us. In fact, I used to be overweight. It's just about putting one foot in front of another. Mm-hmm. If you're going to learn a language and become fluent, you don't go show up to class number 1 and then instantly, voila, you're speaking French. That's not how it works. With anything, you got to put in effort, consistent effort, and the results will come. And if we said, hey, your child will die if you don't lose XYZ, well, you would lose it. If we said, we'll give you,
wouldn't be a question.
Wouldn't be a question. So you can, it's not that you can, it's either you won't or you will. Know this. When you look in front of the mirror, take all your clothes off, know that you are 100% responsible for that. That is not genetics. That is not your parents. It's not your grandparents were obese. This is you. So if you look in the mirror and say, hot damn, you look good. Well, you did that. Congratulations. If you look in the mirror and say, uh-oh, well, you did that. And so what I want people to know is when you take ownership of your failures, when you take ownership of your weakness, then you know you have the power to make change. If you point the finger at anyone else for any responsibility over your success or your failures, well, then you're just giving up. You're saying, well, I can't change, because we can't change other people, but you can change yourself. I totally believe in you. This is not magic. I have a master's degree in the most simple, stupid science in the world. Watch what you put in your mouth, move your body in a variety of ways, get some sleep, remove the cranky, and voila, life improves dramatically.
I love it. You just got to be so energized in that like awesome rant. And, I think one of the things that's so powerful is, I think people do see people who are in great physical fitness, like, wow, like that, like, how did they do that? That's crazy. And to your point, like, there's nothing magical about them. They're just dedicated, right? Like, and they have a mission and they're doing it. And I love what you said about diet. My wife and I in the past have tried keto, we've done different things like that, but you're absolutely right. it's not a lifestyle change, it's a diet. And a diet is definitely, at least from what we've tried over the years, super temporary.
Yeah.
So I definitely, I think a lot of people listening in right now can definitely resonate with what you just said there, because how many diets have we been on over the years, right? So I love that. I want to shift gears for a second. I think it's so insanely powerful that, you know, your journey when you had cancer and you did not let it stop, you know, your dream of what you're doing to impact lives. Like you said, you were in and out of the airports going through 15 months of chemo. So one of the things that like, you know, really inspires me specifically, right, about that, well, there's a lot of things, but, you know, as an example, you know, I'm a new parent right now.
That's
And, you know, yeah, thank you. And, you know, I started my journey as an entrepreneur and I was like roughly 17.
Wow.
And, you know, one of the things, you know, that I've looked at, you know, you think about just always running and going and like, you know, grinding and doing all these things. And then I find myself sometimes where like, you know, me and my wife, like I'll do what I call the graveyard shift for feeding. So like I'll do like the midnight on, right? And so, you know, sometimes I find myself recently like, oh my, I'm so tired, you know, but like I love this. I'm like so excited that I have this. But, you know, and it's like when I hear stories like yours, it's like, no, shut up. It's like you got on a plane, which is typically, you know, miserable to begin with, nonetheless going through chemo.
Yeah.
What pushed you to do that? Like what was the voice, or what was the voice in your head saying that kept you moving forward? Because there are people who are not going even remotely as close to that type of crazy challenge that you are, and faltering at their challenge, at the doorstep of their challenge. And it's not related to going to a doctor's office, getting chemo, coming back home, doing what you're doing, and then getting on a plane, going to these different places. It's just, it's amazing. So what was going through your head? What motivated you to keep going?
You know what? It was one of those things where at first when I was diagnosed, I thought, oh man, I'm definitely dying. And then the doctor said, no, we're going to cure you. You're going to have to endure it. And I say 15 months of chemo, which it was. There was a ton of radiation and surgeries involved. So I was a train wreck. I was brutalized by my treatment. However, I had already, before I got diagnosed, I had already set this foundation of stuff I was in love with, right? I already built the dream career. I had these dream kids. I had something to fight for. And so don't wait for that, people. You prepare your body right now to do battle today, because you never know when illness or injury will strike. And if you're fit and healthy going into any sort of crisis, well, you're far more likely to rebound and recover quickly if you pay attention to your health. But I had set that foundation, and it's interesting because some people get a diagnosis or an injury and there's that fork in the road and they think, oh, I got to change directions because I really, you know, this is my true calling. What happened with me is cancer only solidified the foundation I was standing on. And so even before I had my first dose of chemo, which was my first type of treatment, I just decided, oh, hell no, this thing might take my hair. It might take my health for a while, but it is not taking time with my kids, and it is not taking my career. I have earned my rightful spot on those stages. The stages I stand on are coveted. I can tell you there's a lot of people who would kill to fill my shoes, but they are my shoes. They are my stages. Those are my events that I have cared for years. And those are my athletes that I just couldn't fathom abandoning them. And the reality is two things. If I would have stayed home, all I would have been was sick, right? All I would have been was sick. And I want people to consider that, you know, unless you're contagious, do what you can to get involved with life, you know, take care of your health, but stay engaged, because mentally, you know, all the things that made you happy before can make you happy now, even if you lost your leg or you got cancer or whatever your fate is. But the magic there, this is why I kept going. So maybe race number one, I lost half of my hair while standing on the finish line stage at the Los Angeles Marathon.
Wow.
That was crazy. So that's, you know, that's all in the book stuff, but that was a rude beginning to announcing with chemo. And then the next one, I stood there bald, and, you know, life went on. But this was the magic, is that I would fly out to wherever. Let's say I flew to Fargo.
Right.
I get to Fargo. That's a long, miserable trip. I get there. I sleep on the hotel bathroom floor. And this happened many nights on the road. You know, when you sleep on the floor because you can't stop everything from spinning.
Oh, yeah.
My alarm would go off at 4:30 a.m. and I would drag my lifeless body off the ground and put on clothes. And, you know, again, I was dealing with a violent stomach bug every single day. It was insane. However, The more insane thing was when I would get to those start lines, the second I stood on my stage, everything that was wrong with me disappeared. Everything, all of my focus went off of me and onto these extraordinary people and these incredible events. And I got to be full force Fitz Koehler again. And that lasted until my final finisher crossed the finish line. So if it was a 5K, it was a maybe 2 hour lesson where I got to be free of cancer for 2 hours. But if it were a marathon, which of course required a lot more effort, but whatever, I was able to execute my work without fail for maybe 10 hours. And it was just, it was magical. And that's what I wish for other people. That's one of the things in the books, I talk a lot about the nuts and bolts of preventing the decline and getting healthy and so forth. But it's that mental fortitude. And we have so much more control than we believe. As a generic fitness thing, we have control. I want to tell everybody, you have control. Hear this. You can make the changes you want to see. And boy, is it exciting when you do it. But even when you're sick, even when things aren't going right, you have a lot of control. And I grabbed onto my life and I hung on for dear life. And it was awesome. Was it hard? Yes. Is stubbornness my greatest asset and my greatest curse? Yes. But I wouldn't change 1 second of my decision making just a couple of years ago.
I'm in complete awe at just the level of perseverance, and even to the point of like, I feel a little emotional just based on just how amazing you are and what you went through. It's like my agency world. We work with a lot of nonprofits and a lot of people who deal with whether it's pediatric cancer or just cancer in general. And and I've heard some war stories about the bathroom floor, and so. The fact that you were getting up and still going to do things, because like the war stories I heard is they couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't get out of bed. There's no way they were doing it. And to hear you get your ass up and get out there, no matter what the hell you were going through, use the terminology lifeless body. I mean, I got people, whoever's listening to this, whatever excuse you have, it's fucking bullshit. Like, and that's what energizes the shit out of me about your story. Is that we all have these bullshit excuses about why we can't accomplish this or why we can't do this or why all this BS. Yeah. And for you to be able to do what you did in those 15 months on, even to today, like wow, like holy guacamole, that's crazy.
So you mentioned two things. Is number one, the thing that and I preach about it all the time. It's perspective, right? So yes, I was terrified to have cancer. Yes, it made me sad. It made me cry. However. So before I had cancer, it's not cancer was my mantra. So whether it was a car accident or, bad grades or whatever it was, I would just say, it's not cancer. It'll be fine. And then all of a sudden it was cancer and I had to spin it again. And being a naturally positive person, I did what I thought is, well, I'm not a kid with cancer. Because as we can all imagine, that's the worst case scenario, right? And the other thing I was grateful for is it wasn't my kid with cancer. So if one of us in our family had to have cancer, gee whiz, was I thrilled it was me. So perspective, I just said, okay, I'm not a kid with cancer. It's not my kid with cancer. I'm going to put on my big girl panties and I'm going to get it done. And, life is hard. Nobody gets out unscathed, but those moments, my husband would always drive me to the airport. It was always like a Thursday or a Friday morning. I'd fly out at 6 a.m. because that's how you avoid all the other hiccups that happen about air travel.
Yeah.
And, I actually felt bad for him because he would see how sick I was and he'd walk me up to TSA and look at my gray skin and my bald head and my glossy eyes. And he would say, how are you going to do this? Every single time he would just look at me and say, how are you going to do this? And I would just say, I just am. And what I hope people take from that is to have freaking faith in yourself. The reality is if I had hit California and I got sick, well, there's hospitals in California that would have taken care of me, right? But yeah, have some faith in yourself. Giddy up, man. Saddle up, choose your destiny, and go freaking get it.
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to your husband also because it's got to be so crazy. I couldn't imagine. I don't think I would allow my wife to leave. I'm like, you ain't going nowhere, right? Yeah. But like, you're right though. You gotta let them. Like, because I know if I was in that situation, she'd be like, where the hell do you think you're going? But like, it's so cool that you guys have that level of relationship. That's a great partnership to make that happen.
Well, the other thing is he knows that I don't ask permission. He couldn't come back with a gun to my head. He understands what he's dealing with. But yeah, it's an interesting mindset. Like now within the past couple of years, anytime someone gets a cold or whatever, hey, if you're contagious, stay home. I believe strongly in that. But, everybody else is wear a mask, wear a ski mask, wear a helmet, duck and cover, hide out, isolate. I think isolation is a horrific idea for most people. It leads to deep, dark depression. And, it's one thing to feel grief. And I did. Again, I cried every day, but I would do it like alone in my bathroom or in my car. And then I would dry my tears and I would find a way to get on with it. And so it's okay. It's human to feel grief. It's not okay to wallow in it. It's not okay to exclusively focus on your grief. You have to seek elsewhere. You have to look for the joy or it will not come.
It's up to you. You're the pilot, right?
Yeah.
What you said, I saw a quote today and it really, really resonated with me. It said, all the while you thought you were drowning, life is teaching you to swim.
Yeah.
And what your journey just really reminded me of that, because while you're going through all that shit, you were swimming regardless, right? It wasn't like you were drowning. It wasn't easy. You had a tide pulling you, but obviously you kept showing up and you kept swimming. So that's incredible. And that's my next question for you. So, has there been any quotes or adages over the years, and it could be a Fitz original, or a family or somebody, colleague, whoever, that when you think of perseverance, you think of this quote or adage?
So I used to tell my clients when I was doing personal training many years ago, when they would tell me I can't, I would say, can't is something capable people say to excuse themselves from trying. So I don't really believe you can't. And then it's funny, along those lines, when I started right before I started chemo, I had to go to MRI. And are you familiar with the MRI experience?
I've never been in it, but I have a lot of doctor clients, so I know what it looks like and all that stuff.
Yeah, so they shove you in a little tube. For most folks, it's uncomfortable. If you're claustrophobic, it's a bit of a nightmare. And traditionally, you're on your back. So they shove you in this tube, and it's like a little coffin. Well, for breast cancer, they do it slightly differently, and it's even ruder. So I show up to this thing, and I know, and I'm claustrophobic, so I know that it's not going to be a good time, but I'm prepared to just breathe and handle it. So I go into the MRI room. Instead of having me lie down on the bed or the little sliding board, she goes, all right, lie face down and put your face in the hole. And I was, what? She goes, lie face down. So I just climb up and I do it. And I had long hair at the time and it was all falling down over my face. I lie down. She takes these plates and clamps me down, literally pins me to the table by my breasts. Clamp. She pins each boob. And so I'm face down with my arms up like Superman. And I have my hair all over my head. And she says, okay, don't move. If you move, you'll ruin everything. Just stay still. And she shoves me into the machine. And I'm so type A. I had a full blown freak out. I don't freak out for anything, but I lost my mind. It was screaming and crying and flailing. And I was pinned down. So I couldn't get up if I wanted to. So she comes and she undoes me and she's yelling at me. I said, please just let me get adjusted. And she says, well, if you don't get this done, they're not going to start chemo and your cancer's moving fast. I was like, I know. So basically I have to get the MRI done.
Right.
And so I said, just give me a few minutes. We take that Coban tape, I think it's called. We made we fastened a little hairband to pull my hair back, and we took off the socks and stuff. So I just would feel a little freer. And then I get back into this miserable position. She shoves me back into the tube, and you get in there and Thor starts banging his hammer on the side of the wall. It's a very stressful experience, but I knew that I had to do it. There wasn't an escape plan for me. So what happened, like a crazy person, I start convincing myself that I can do this. I keep saying, you know what, you've built an international business. You've raised 2 great kids, used to be a competitive kickboxer. You can do hard things. You can do this. You can do this. And it's crazy to talk to yourself, maybe, but I had to. And it's funny because I think if anyone else were just walking by, they would think, oh, Fitz is resting. Right? She's just lying there. It was the wildest internal mental experience I've ever had. And I just counted the seconds and I kept telling you can do this, you can do this. And then so eventually the 40 minutes was up and she finally let me broke free and I broke down again. But what I had realized is if I wanted to survive, I was going to constantly have to do things that scared me. Right? Every needle made me cry. Everything. It was a very overwhelmingly stressful experience. And I was constantly, every time I sat in a chair for a needle or radiation or whatever it was I was doing, I was constantly in my head. And so, so the can't thing, I don't accept can't, but I also am the first person to remind myself that I can. I have to be my cheerleader, and I had a lot of support, but nobody else could take those pokes. Nobody else could ingest the chemo like I did. And so you all have to be your coach. You have to be the weirdo inside talking to yourself, saying, I know what you're capable of. Think about all the things you've accomplished in your life. And there is nothing too big, too small. If you're going to do the humble brag, well, gee whiz, do it to yourself. And, you may really be able to push the needle forward, whether it's in your fitness plan or your career. Maybe you're someone who's afraid to go ask for a raise. Yeah, go ask for the freaking raise. What do you have to lose? Reach out, start your own business or retire, whatever it is. You only get one life, and you're in control of it.
I love that. First off, 40 minutes in your head like that. Oh my goodness. And I'm somebody who, for overwhelmingly majority of my life, I had pretty bad anxiety disorder, and I was claustrophobic too. And when I was in tight quarters like that, I've never been in an MRI machine, but it could be like when I was stuck in an elevator, my world was ending, right? But for 40 minutes, you being in that thing, wow. I mean, that's it's crazy. But you muscle through, right? So, wow, there's so much positivity, there's so much perseverance, and one of the things that I respect the most about you, and I think that's for people listening in, a lot of the younger people, right? Like we're living in a world now where this younger generation, and I mean like 35s and younger, they want to run away from hard work. They want to run away from really big challenges. They want to run away from fearful things, and when you hear somebody like yourself, there's not a lot of cloth that's cut like that in these days anymore, right? Where, you don't find people who can have that mindset and not just run away from the burning building, right? And so I think there's a lot to learn in everything that you share in your stories. And obviously you're an author and in your books, which I'm going to encourage everybody to grab. I know I'm definitely going to after now me and you in this conversation. Where can people find you? This is where you plug yourself, on social, on your website, the whole spiel. Where can they find you and engage with you?
Oh, thank you so much. So you're right. There is no triumph. There is no glory in a safe space. So put yourself out there, challenge yourself. Even if you fail, it's okay, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter to anyone but you, and you'll figure it out, and you'll get it next time. So my headquarters for everything is Fitzness.com. It's FITZ as in zebra, NESS.com. That's where that exact formula for weight loss is. Tons of free workout videos, recipes, you name it. It's on Fitzness.com. It's also the best place to buy my books. Now, my books are available wherever books are sold, including audiobook for my memoir, My Noisy Cancer Comeback. But if you're looking for your Healthy Cancer Comeback, Sick to Strong, or the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal, or Noisy, those are available at Fitzness.com. I sell them as individuals, a 2-pack and a 3-pack. This is really the thing is, I hope 0% of your listeners or viewers have cancer. I hope nobody out there has cancer. However, every last one of them loves a cancer patient.
Mm-hmm.
And that person is likely to hit rock bottom at some point and really not know how to get themselves back to healthy and fit and vibrant. These books are blueprints. It's the only thing like it. There's nothing else on the market that talks exercise, nutrition, sleep, complementary care, everything a cancer patient needs and a survivor needs to rebuild their body. So if you know someone, please let them know of these resources. But if you buy the books at Fitzness.com, they all come with a free gift. And I sign every last one of them that leaves my office. And they come in really pretty fun packaging because I want my readers to feel special. So that's Fitzness.com. And then as well, I'm at Fitzness on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Please connect. If you follow, I promise quality content. But what I'd much prefer is for you to reach out, leave a comment, say, I heard you on John's podcast. And I wanted to connect because I'd much rather have friends than followers.
I love that. And you're a remarkable human. I'm so grateful that we got to connect. And I'm so grateful that I'm going to have the ability to share, your book and this podcast with people. Because there's not enough people like you in the world that has gone through some real shit and lived to tell the other side of the story, but also wasn't just like miserable and sorry for themselves the whole time they were going through it. There's so much to learn and unpack from somebody like you. I'm so grateful and glad that you have a memoir and those types of things, because that's where you really depict and get this information and how you did it and the inner workings of it. But again, I always like to look at it, and I think this is so relevant because you keep telling people like their life is in their hands. I heard this saying back forever ago. I think it was like almost like close to 10 years ago. I was in the city at this event, and this one doctor got up and he ended with, create a great day is how he talks to people when he sees them out. Like if you see somebody at a grocery store, a lot of times like, oh, how are you? All right, have a good day. Like, see you later. And the typical stereotype, automated like response is always have a good day or oh, good to see you, whatever. But he always ends off with create a great day. And I embody that instantly because people are like, what? Create a great day? It's up to me? Like, what do you mean? I have to make the great day? So I love saying that because it's like a big like stop in their mental. Like, what did he just say? Did he say create? So I love that. It's so relevant based on what you're saying. And I also just want to share, again, time is the one asset we don't get back. So you being here with us, spending it with us and our listenership means the world. We're going to make sure everybody go give a follow to Fitzness, as well as go check out the site, go get that book. I know, again, like I said, I will be. And again, just thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. This was a great conversation. You are a delightful, charismatic host, and that new baby of yours is so lucky to have you as a dad.
Oh, thank you so much. It means the world to me, and I'm grateful. And actually, I'll ask you for this. Yeah. So you have 2 kids, you said?
I do.
Okay, so what is your advice for a new parent, right? That is, a business owner, and and wanting to be, a super present parent, right? So like the biggest thing for me growing up, I had my fair share of challenges with, my father and things like that. And I always said, like, I want to be hyper present. I want to be the best dad I can be, and from a parent perspective, what advice would you give? Obviously, because it seems like you've always been rolling and going, right? So
yeah, I was very fortunate. I've had it all. I never put them in daycare. I didn't trust anyone else I didn't trust strangers to care for my kids. So I was able to be full-time professional and full-time parent, which is tricky. I know not everybody gets that blessing. If you do have that luxury, that's the only way to go. I think be with them, talk respectfully to them, and they will talk respectfully back to you. And then if you have 2, don't let them say stupid, ugly, dumb, idiot, or hate, because those are fighting words. Oh, yeah. And my kids didn't have name calling tools. So they didn't have those horrible fights. And my son would get upset and be like, Ginger won't play with me, but he never punched her and says, you're an idiot. So your language, delightful. And hopefully it all works out, right?
I love that. It's such great advice. Thank you so much. And, and again, thank you for your time. Everybody, Fitzness, Fitz Koehler, thank you so much. You're, a remarkable human. So grateful for your time. Thank you.